Hi, my name is Eric, and this is Blackrock Forge, an environment setting created using 11 different assets during the course of a week. Ever since the release of the Infinity Blade assets on the Unreal Marketplace, I have been wanting to create an environment and challenge myself to use only 11 of the included assets in one of the packages available. For me, that meant I wasn't allowed to make my own assets or import new textures, but heavily modifying the assets using the different editors within the Unreal Engine, however, was fine. When I first started working, I started out by gathering some idea of what I wanted to make. Given the props I had to work with, I knew I wanted to make some kind of fortress using only those pieces. I went online and looked for various structures that I could use for inspiration to my work. I found that a fortress from the Lord of the Rings series, aka Minas Tirith, was a really good reference point for my environment, since the props I worked with reminded me of that fortress. The basis of my idea was that the player would be able to see the fortress from the outside, and the fortress would be part of a large mountain structure. I wanted the fortress to look like it was carved from the rock of the mountain, almost as if it was a part of it. Once I was done with the paper planning behind the level, I started making a small rocky island using my only rock prop. I used the scale and rotate tools to fool the viewer into thinking that the mountain was in fact a mountain and not a bunch of rocks next to each other. After that, I raised the terrain from under the water and created a small patch of grass and dirt in the center of the rock formation to break up the rocky ground beneath the terrain. Once I was done creating a basic natural environment, I began creating some structures. My first idea for a structure was to use the floor tiles as part of a tower. I started out by placing floor tiles vertically in the shape of a circle, and later adding two walls crossing each other in the middle of the circle to break up the pattern of the tower walls. At the top of the tower, I placed a few planks that formed the floor, and finally I lit the top up by placing fire on a pedestal on top of that floor. Once that was done, I started by placing out some floor tiles underneath the tower to create a starting point for the player outside of the terrain I had just made. The floor tiles was square in shape, which made the floor look really weird if the player saw the edges. Because of that, I placed rocks over the end of the floor tiles, which gave my environment a more natural feel. After that, I started to create my fortress. I used a brick wall and two arches to create the fortress wall, and then I copied that wall and tilted it slightly a couple of times before I added pillars in between the walls to break up the pattern of the walls. Then, I basically just copied that wall 3 times, placed them on top of each other, and added some rocks around it, and suddenly I had created a really nice looking fortress built into a mountain. The entrance to the fortress were made by deleting one of the walls in the fortress and adding arches, one after another, towards the inner part of the mountain. I then added walls on the sides and some floor tiles underneath the entrance. One problem that I was faced with after I was done with the fortress and the entrance was the height difference between the entrance and the terrain. I solved this by making stairs outside of the fortress that led the player from the terrain up to the entrance. The stairs were created by placing out a single brick and then rotating, scaling, and placing that same brick next to the first one until the stairs were finished. This process was tedious, but it yielded some nice results. Later on, I used the same stairs near the start of the level as well. On the inside of the fortress, I initially only created walls and floor using the props I had, but that created some problems. First of all, the structure was round, and I wanted the roof to be round as well, but the pieces I had were all square in shape, and that made tiling a round roof really difficult. Additionally, the room needed light somehow, and a few light shafts through the roof probably wouldn't be enough for such a massive structure. The issue with the round roof was solved by using rocks instead of walls for roof, and then adding a pillar in the center of the room to support the structure. The lighting, though, was solved by creating lava using only material functions inside Unreal. In order to create lava, I added a noise function, scaled it up, and then I moved the noise based on time within the material editor. At that point, I had a moving grain noise material. But if I also added temperature to the noise using the temperature function in Unreal, it looked a lot more like lava. Finally, I plugged the noise into the material's displacement map, giving life and movement to the lava material. Large parts of the floor were then removed and replaced with lava inside of the fortress. Since the floor tiles were square in shape, I had to hide the edges of the floor using rocks and bricks, again creating a natural feel in the environment. Later, I added 2 pouring lava pillars as well. In order to create more varied lighting in my scene, I received help from a friend that made a crystal out of the rock mesh by playing with the rock texture inside the Unreal texture editor. The final result was a nice blue and orange look to the scene. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Bye bye.